It's another day of anger and frustration in the capital of California.
Stephon Clark!
The city of Sacramento has experienced nearly 2 weeks of unrest
Black Lives Matter!
since the death of 23-year-old Stephon Clark. A father of 2 boys, ages 1 and 3, was killed by police in his grandmother's backyard. Earlier today, he was laid to rest.
I am.
The Reverend Al Sharpton delivering a fiery eulogy.
This boy should be alive today. It's time for us to go down and stop this madness.
Clark's family has retained renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump. Crump has represented the families of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown.
We're going to have our own independent autopsy because we believe that the Clark family has entrusted us to not take the police narrative for the gospel.
The investigation into Clark's death is ongoing.
My team and I at the California Department of Justice will do everything in our power to ensure that this investigation is fair, thorough, and impartial.
In response to the outrage, the California Attorney General's office is now providing oversight of the investigation. Clark was killed on the night of March 18th by 2 officers responding to a report of a man vandalizing cars.
He's looking into another car.
Overhead, a police helicopter, infrared video tracking Clark. On the ground, shaky body cams pick up the frantic pursuit. As they close in, amid the chaos, one of the officers shouts, "Gun!"
Show me your hands, gun!
Seconds later, both officers open fire, shooting 20 times.
Show me your hands, gun! 5-7 shots fired, 7-8 down.
Leaving Stephon Clark dead, an iPhone, not a weapon, by his side.
My man was shot so many times. He was.
They could have set up a perimeter. They could have given him commands and orders and allowed him to comply with those orders. They could have did so many things to de-escalate the situation.
ABC News senior legal correspondent Sunny Hostin and I watched the footage together. How is it that they could mistake a cell phone for a gun?
They did give him the opportunity to show his hands. We're talking about probably a dark object. It doesn't have to be an actual gun. It only has to be that the police officer perceives the threat.
So when he yells, "Gun, gun, gun," that could be their strongest defense in a courtroom.
He perceived that it was a gun.
And that's all that matters.
Giving him the license to fire.
Once again, the law says as long as an officer reasonably believes he or she is in danger, deadly force is justifiable.
Would an officer acting in the same circumstance consider this a reasonable action based on the facts as the officers knew them?
Following the shooting, the officers also muted their body cameras.
That one fact can be a very egregious thing that officers did that could determine whether or not they keep their jobs.
The family believes that's something nefarious was going on at that time. They believe that's when they started to conspire to try to cover this up.
Running south.
Sacramento police say the officers in the helicopter witnessed Clark break a glass door before they told the units to move in. They also released a statement saying, in part, the officers gave the suspect commands to stop and show his hands. The suspect turned and advanced toward the officers while holding an object which was extended in front of him. The officers believed the suspect was pointing a firearm at them. Fearing for their safety, the officers fired their duty weapons, striking the suspect multiple times. The 2 officers who shot Clark have a combined 6 years on the job with the Sacramento Police Department. Before that, they each had 4 years' worth of experience with other departments. Both officers are now on paid administrative leave. Do you think these officers are going to find themselves in a court of law facing charges?
I don't think so. I'm just looking at this. The legal standard is whether or not the force was justified. I can't imagine that even an external investigation is going to determine that this shooting was unjustified. We need more training because this young man, a father of 2, shouldn't be dead. He had no weapon.
Clark had been staying at his grandmother's home on the night he was killed. Court records show he had 2 felony counts of domestic abuse to which he pled guilty and agreed to undergo treatment. According to the Sacramento Bee, Clark also had other charges, including robbery. He pled no contest and spent a year on a sheriff's department work project to satisfy his jail term.
These officers don't know the criminal record when they are on the scene. They know nothing. It only matters what the officers knew at the time when they are pursuing a suspect.
As to the accusations of racism, it is not clear the officers knew at the time of the shooting that Clark was African American.
What is he, black, white, Hispanic, Asian?
He had a hoodie on. I couldn't tell, man.
The fact that the young man was running,
Yeah.
does he not have potentially some justification in being afraid
Maybe
of
he's
the police?
afraid of the police.
So, I mean, that he was running doesn't necessarily mean he was guilty of anything.
No, it doesn't. And that's, I think, what's so difficult about the scene that we see over and over again. There are young black men that are just simply afraid of the police because you see the statistics of young black men being killed disproportionately from other people in the population.
In the days following the shooting, Clark's family has been vocal in their outrage.
They didn't have to shoot him that many times. Why did you just shoot him in the arm, shoot him in the leg, send a dog, send a taser? Why?
Stephon Clark! Stephon Clark!
Tuesday at a city hall meeting, Clark's older brother, Stephon, interrupted the meeting,
Stephon Clark! Stephon Clark!
angrily confronting the mayor. Stephon apologized to him the next day. Let's step away from the details of this case for a moment. Where are we as a country now that we have this accumulation of cases like this?
There is this fundamental distrust between the police and the communities they police. When you have the community that's being policed so afraid of possibly being killed by the neighborhood police officer, it's a recipe for disaster.
But the White House has called the national outrage surrounding Clark's death a local matter.
This is something that is a local matter, and that's something that we feel should be left up to the local authorities. The president's very supportive of law enforcement, but at the same time, in these specific cases, in these specific instances, those would be left up to local authorities to make that determination, and not something for the federal government to weigh into.
The president's press secretary said this is a local matter. No, this is not a local matter. They've been killing young black men all over the country.
This shooting has reignited the kind of protests against police killings that spread over the past several years in cities such as Ferguson, Milwaukee, and Baton Rouge, where this week, the Louisiana Attorney General said the state would not bring charges against the 2 police officers involved in the 2016 shooting of Alton Sterling.
The Louisiana Department of Justice cannot proceed with a prosecution of either Officer Lake or Officer Salamone.
Cell phone video taken by witnesses shows Sterling being wrestled to the ground by 2 cops trying to restrain him. Both officers appear to react to something and reach for their gun.
Hey, bro! You move, I swear to God! Hey, boss!
Yes, the system has failed us. Yes, we are disappointed. But as a family, we're going to stay strong.
Tonight in Sacramento, the streets are quieter, but so many left with this question. Why does this keep happening? For Nightline, this is Dan Harris in New York.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.